Welcome to Modern Business, the show that bridges the gap between the viewer and the entrepreneur or market maker. I'm your host, Taylor Bursey, and today we are joined by Isaac Northcott, owner and operator of Green Turtle Salvage, a boutique antique shop in Cobourg, Ontario. Here to talk more about the world of antique dealing, please welcome Isaac. Now, Isaac, in your own words, what is Green Turtle Salvage?
So Green Turtle Salvage is a vintage and antique shop located in Cobourg, Ontario. I run my business primarily through my retail shop, and I also operate on Instagram and my Facebook page, as well as antique shows occasionally. I primarily sell mid-century modern, primitive, and industrial home decor and furniture, and I look forward to expanding in the near future.
Very cool. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of your business, I need to know, why the name Green Turtle Salvage?
So Green Turtle Salvage came from my grandpa, who used to take my brother and I on walks at the Northcott. So that's kind of where my love of turtles started.
Okay.
And then over the years, I've traveled a lot. So I used to swim with sea turtles in like the Cayman Islands.
Wow.
And it's always just been my favorite animal. And then the green also goes with sustainability as well, because I have a lot of products that are reused, upcycled, etc.
Very cool. Definitely in the world of antiquing, you're upcycling those items and then repurposing them, giving them a second life. I love that you're pulling that in, something that you love with sustainability. That's a huge message that a lot of businesses are putting forward now.
Yeah.
So how did you get into antique dealing?
Well, it started when I was 15, when my mom brought me to my first auction house, actually in Utica. So I didn't really have any idea what I was doing. I just went to the first auction and started buying things that I thought were interesting, and it just kind of started from there.
So at 15, you just went, okay, I'm going to start buying cool, old, eclectic things and selling them.
Yeah.
Is that how the journey started, or did you start working in other parts of the industry before building your business?
That's pretty much how it started. I think initially I started buying items on Marketplace and selling them on Marketplace and garage sale.
Okay.
But over time, like I went to the auction house, I started buying and selling, and eventually I was offered a job because I was always there, and they thought I could be useful liquidating people's estates, helping set up for the auctions, and it just happened organically.
Okay, so organic growth, but when we're talking about starting at 15 years old, how does a 15-year-old have the capital to start buying and selling antiques?
Yeah, I agree. Well, I've always been money conscious, and I was always a saver growing up. So instead of buying things like ice cream when I go out with friends or something like that, I would put money aside to buy antique items to resell to make more money.
Was that ever strange to your friends around you?
It was always interesting to them, but then I would tell them what I sold some things for, and then they'd be much more interested in what I was doing.
Fair enough, especially that young when you're making money off of items that nobody would think, especially at 15 years old, I'm going to buy and sell this and make a profit. So when you are dabbling into that world and starting out, because it happened so organically, how did you decide at that point in time, before you scaled your business, how much you were going to sell an item you purchased it for versus you purchased it for?
I guess it depends on how much you purchase the item for, and then how far you have to travel to get that item. And also you have to take into consideration the cleaning, the marketing you have to do, the researching and everything that goes into selling a product. But you can also look at eBay solds, other businesses that have similar products and what their price ranges are. But overall, you should be able to pay yourself with the item you sell.
So when you started doing this, when you were 15, 16, 17, you knew that from the beginning, or did somebody guide you into that pricing structure and model?
Initially, I just kind of bought what I thought was interesting and then figured out the pricing later if it was cheap enough.
Okay.
But over time, you get a better understanding of what people are looking for. Once you start selling your customers, they tell you what they're looking for, and then overall, it just grows exponentially into what you're looking for.
Right. So let's talk about the growth.
Yeah.
You go to your first antique auction at 15. now you have your own storefront and this is your full-time career.
Yeah.
Talk us through that journey. Really, what happened and what were the steps to getting to where you are today?
So initially I went to my first auction, started buying and selling. Then I worked for the auction house. And then after that, I started reaching out to other antique shops and selling my items. And then that eventually got me a job at Brooklyn Vintage Decor. They're in Uxbridge right now, but they used to be in Brooklyn, where I used to operate my business out of my parents' house.
Okay.
So that happened for about 2 to 3 years, and then I started doing my own thing. And then I had a booth at the Coburg Farmers Market, where I kind of dove into like refinishing furniture, making live edge benches, other like upcycled products like that. So I did that, started that in 2018. I did that for 1 summer, which was very beneficial because I learned that it's a lot of work to refinish furniture and make your own products. And I found that it was just too much work for the amount of money I was making. So that's where I started just buying and selling items that don't need as much work, but focusing more on designer products, like the higher end level.
Okay.
And so during COVID, I opened my shop in Coburg. That would have been in 2021.
Okay.
In
2021.
like 2021 in the fall.
Okay.
And then from there, my Instagram like kind of took off once I had the shop, and then I was promoting to like interior designers, stagers, homeowners, and like film sets to buy my products.
So they purchase the products from you. They don't. You don't loan it to the.
No.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the film and television and staging companies, a lot of it's done on trade and loan.
Right.
So they're flat out purchasing the
Correct.
products from you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So when it comes to the transition from the farmer's market that you were working at to the storefront business, you said that the cost of your labor versus the outcome of the product was too much at the market.
Right.
So was that really the catalyst for, okay, I've got to go and find a storefront and house already done items, if you will, to then buy or sell?
Initially, like the rent was so high in Coburg for like the Main Street shops that I didn't really have the capital to pay like $3,000 a month in rent.
Sure.
So where I was living, there was actually, because of COVID, there was a vacant little section of a building. So I just asked them if I could rent that space, and that's just sort of how it happened.
So talk to us about building that space. You go to that business owner and you say, hey, can I rent a little part of your building?
Yeah.
They say yes. How do you feel, and what's going through your mind at that time?
Initially, like I've never had to pay rent before when I was like 18 to 20. So that was a new experience of paying rent, but it also helped me, like it motivated me to work harder to pay the rent and put money in my pocket every month. So the space, it's about 350 to 400 square feet.
Okay.
So it was a decent size to start, but eventually I'm looking for a larger space.
Of course.
As I buy like larger furniture.
Yes, as you scale, if you will.
Right.
And then, so you get the storefront, you're worried about the rent.
Yeah.
But are you just filling it with stuff and worrying about the marketing and the POS system and all the nitty gritty details later? Or was that kind of your moment where you went, oh my goodness, I have to put together an actual system for my store?
Right. I had most of the systems just from the farmer's market. I had like a Square system where people could pay by debit, credit, whatever works for them. But yeah, there wasn't much that I had to do because the space was already done. I already had the system. I just had to buy the inventory to fill the space.
That seems like a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Was there anything when you opened the storefront that you weren't anticipating to be a challenge?
Well, I opened it during COVID, so I was just open by appointment.
Okay.
Just because most people didn't want to go into a shop with other people just because it was a small space. But it worked well being open by appointment just because I could go out and source during the day and find people items because I posted most of my items on Instagram. So that's where most people found me just because my store wasn't on a main street.
Of course. Yeah. And do you think that opening at the beginning of COVID your storefront.
Yep.
Do you think that was a benefit to you to get your feet wet before things really ramped up, or was it more of a challenge to bring people in the door?
I'd say it wasn't a challenge to get people in the door just because I was posting most of my items on Instagram and selling them online.
Right.
So it was more of a pickup location than an actual storefront.
Okay.
And it's sort of like, it's pretty much the same thing now, but just occasionally I'm open like on Saturdays, okay. But I have all that information on my Instagram if anyone wants to follow me on there.
And what is your Instagram for everyone?
My Instagram is greenturtlesalvage_1.
Perfect. So go follow Isaac at greenturtlesalvage_1. Now, you alluded to it there, but being a one-man show, you are Mr. Green Turtle Salvage.
Yep.
How do you make time to source inventory and have your storefront where people are coming in and out of? How does that all work?
So most mornings I try to go thrifting in the Coburg area.
Okay.
And then I try to schedule most of the people that buy stuff from me for the mornings so that I can do everything in the morning in the Coburg area. And then I go home, I clean, I research, I refinish, whatever I need to do to get other products ready, photograph, and post on Instagram for the following day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you kind of have your set routine.
Yeah.
Now, are you sourcing only from the Coburg area, or do you expand outside of that as well?
I source primarily between Hamilton, Kingston, and Peterborough, like mainly.
Okay.
But occasionally I go outside if there's something really interesting that I want to have in my shop.
And there's enough inventory in those markets to fill your store and keep your clientele happy.
For sure.
Wow. That's very interesting. Have you ever gone on any big adventures for Salvage? I think of shows like American Pickers or other things where they travel all over the world sometimes to find inventory. Yeah. Have you dabbled in that at all?
I've gone on like small road trips. I went to Massachusetts last year to the big Brimfield Antique Show. And I've also been on like little road trips going to like Montreal, Ottawa, Quebec, just to look at different areas to see what the sourcing is like.
Okay. Now, you said you have stagers and different types of clientele coming to you.
Yeah.
If somebody comes to you looking for a certain item that you don't have in inventory, are you sourcing it for them, or are you sending them to somebody that you know in the industry that already has it?
Yeah, so generally I try and source the item for them, but if I can't find it or if it's an item that's more obscure, I have a lot of other connections, like other antique dealers. So if they have the item, I'm happy to put them into their direction. Or if they can't pick it up, I can grab it from them, and then we can figure out like pickup, shipping, whatever works for them.
Very cool. Now don't go anywhere. We will be right back with Isaac from Green Turtle Salvage after this break.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy, Karim Grant. I'm the host of The Players Corner. Season 2 is coming right at you. Make sure you stay tuned. We have a lot of exciting guests right here on Rogers Durham TV. Make sure you're there.
I'm Deborah Hutchison, host of Talk Politics. Join us as we speak with your elected officials at the municipal, provincial, and federal levels about the issues that matter to you most. That's Talk Politics right here on Rogers TV.
Hi, can I take your order? Hello?
Oh, hey. Wait, what was the question?
Let me guess. One driving high combo, extra baked?
No. Could I get a burger with a side of fries?
Think you're a better driver when you're high? Think again. Smoking weed affects reaction time and concentration. A message from Mad Canada.
This is Rogers TV.
Welcome back to Modern Business, the show that bridges the gap between the viewer and the entrepreneur or market maker. We are joined by Isaac Northcott, owner and operator of Green Turtle Salvage, a boutique antique store in Cobourg, Ontario. Now, Isaac, we left off talking about how you source inventory for clients.
Yeah.
But let's talk about how you acquire the clients.
Right.
How do you market your business?
So initially I started marketing on Facebook Marketplace. I would just put like a post with like Green Turtle Salvage with some of my products on there. And I also do it on Instagram. I've also ran Facebook and Instagram ads just to try it to see how it works. A lot of my marketing is word of mouth though, in like the Cobourg area. I meet a lot of interesting people, like the people I buy from, people I sell to, and where I like source from, like the thrift shops. Yeah.
And it's a very niche industry, so I assume once word gets out about you and your business, it's not long before people come looking for you.
Right.
So I guess that's where the word of mouth plays in. And maybe it's not just the Cobourg area, it's probably extending beyond that.
Right.
So do you have a website or anything external that isn't social media?
So right now I just have the Instagram account, but early in like the new year, I'm looking at making an Etsy page to reach like a wider audience. And then I'm also doing the Aberfoyle Antique Show in the spring and the fall of next year.
Very nice.
So you can find some of my products there.
Very nice. So let's dive into all of that. Is there a strategy behind just being on Instagram at this point in time?
Like at this point, there's a lot of people on Instagram, and that's where most of my customers are. So that's just the best place to market my products.
That's interesting, because when I think of antiquing and antique dealing, I envision an older audience that would almost lean towards the newspaper generation or the radio ad type of clientele. So what would you say your demographic is?
I'd say the demographic is mainly women.
Okay.
And then I'd say like 70% women.
Okay.
And then I'd say the age range is generally around like 30 to 50 is my target customer.
Interesting. And those customers are on social media.
Yeah.
Now, looking at your marketing being primarily on social media, have you had any challenges with that?
So about like a year and a half, maybe a bit more, my Instagram was hacked, unfortunately.
Oh no.
Yeah, so, and Instagram doesn't have much support for it, so I just had to restart my whole account and just kind of follow back my customers, let them know what was happening, and just kind of continue posting from there. So that was a bit of a setback for my business, but it showed me that this is what I really want to do.
And what is the learning from that? Did you take anything away from your Instagram being hacked?
Yeah, I added a two-step verification, which I didn't have, which I should have had it, but now I know.
There you go. Well, you know, you figured it out, right?
Yeah.
You still have your clientele.
Right.
Is that the catalyst for then looking into and exploring an e-commerce store like an Etsy page?
Right, yeah. That's how it started. I just haven't had the chance because I just moved. I've had to move a lot of my inventory to the new location, just like for extra storage. But next year, once all that's done, I have like industrial racking to keep everything neat and tidy, I guess.
You're leveling up.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the inventory and putting it on Instagram, because I assume it's probably going to be pretty transferable to the way that you're going to put it on your e-commerce site.
Right.
So when you acquire a new item, walk us through the process of when it comes through your shop doors to when it's uploaded on Instagram.
So most of my items, I purchase the item. This is generally like in the mornings or whenever I'm able to pick up, and depending on where I get the items from. I'd bring them home, I'd clean them, I'd research it, and then I'd take pictures, usually in the afternoon, and then I'd post it on my Instagram, and then usually the following day I bring all that inventory that I posted to my shop.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're bringing it all to your shop. Now, you mentioned earlier that you were starting to dabble into the world of, are they antique shows?
Right.
And kind of going to these markets, if you will.
Yeah.
So being predominantly an Instagram-based business at this point in time,
Yeah.
are you bringing all your inventory with you to these shows, or how are you showcasing your inventory?
So I just had an antique show on October 15th.
Okay.
And it was a pretty big booth, which was almost the size of my shop. So I actually brought a lot of the inventory there, which was a lot of work, but it was very beneficial because everyone got to see, that didn't know I had a shop, they got to see most of it in one spot.
Do you ever fear that bringing all your inventory to one spot might be an opportunity for theft or anything like that? Have you experienced any of that?
I haven't experienced any theft yet.
Okay.
Like being my shop, like open by appointment, I have a pretty good eye of everything that's in there, and yeah.
Yeah, if I were you, I would be hiring security to cover my antiques and make sure nobody was touching them.
Yeah.
Because they're such rare, almost always one-of-a-kind items, I would assume.
Yeah.
It's so desirable, right? But I'm glad you haven't had any of those issues up to this point.
If I had a larger shop, I would have to look into extra security.
Of course.
For sure, but.
So when it comes to the antiques that you have, whether you're bringing them into your shop, taking them to a show, or putting them online, have you ever picked one thing that you'll never forget, your most favorite item?
Yeah, I'd say one of my favorite items is a huge fiberglass, like handmade mold of a loggerhead sea turtle. It's about 5 feet long and it hangs on the wall, and that's one of my favorite pieces.
So you haven't sold that piece, it will be yours forever.
Yeah.
Is that the mascot of your store?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
One day I want to hang it in a larger shop with a big Green Turtle Salvage sign. Yeah.
So let's talk about that, the branding part of it.
Yeah.
Have you looked into creating more of a long-term logo or a strategy for your business that will brand it?
Well, the logo I have right now, I created it last year or 2 years ago, and I've kind of just stuck with that logo just because people know that's me. But eventually I'd like to kind of update it a bit.
And what's the 3 to 5 year plan for Green Turtle Salvage? Where are you going?
So I'd like to make an Etsy page just to reach a wider audience, like in other countries. I'd also like right now I have a big garage space, like offsite, where I'm gonna store larger pieces. So just getting that all organized, and then I can get into buying larger pieces. And I'd say in about 1 to 2 years, I'd like to buy a larger transportation vehicle, so I can deliver larger items to people. Just because right now I just have a smaller van, so I can't always pick up and deliver certain pieces.
And how does pickup and delivery work? So I'm assuming you're selling primarily in Ontario?
Yeah.
But I would also assume you have people buying from maybe Canada-wide or even beyond Canada.
Yeah.
So are you shipping those items? Are you driving them across the border sometimes?
Yeah.
How does that process work?
So most of my items that I ship generally are pretty small because shipping can be pretty expensive for larger items, and most people don't want to pay for that cost specifically.
Okay.
But yeah, most of my items that I ship are generally like within 3 by 2 feet.
Okay.
So a decent size to ship.
Were you ever worried when you started shipping items how you were going to bundle it up so they wouldn't break or be damaged in transit?
Yeah, like most of the items I package like how I would want my items to be packaged if I was buying something. So with glass, I always bubble wrap, stuff everything with newspaper, make sure there's no movement or like airspace.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking back to all the shows that I've watched where there's been antiques or old items, and they're always in these wooden crates. Are you shipping in wooden crates, or is that just something for television?
That's generally for like higher end like signs or more fragile stuff.
Okay.
Most of the stuff I ship is like, it can be fragile, but it fits in a smaller box. And the shipping items in wood crates adds a lot of weight, which can greatly increase the cost of shipping it.
And being that your business is primarily on Instagram at this point in time, if I'm somebody across the country, let's say I'm in Vancouver, how does that process work? Am I DMing you on Instagram to say, hey, I want this item?
Yeah. You can either DM me, email me, text me, whatever works for you. And just, if you're interested in an item, you can just say, I'd like to buy this item. And then we can figure out the payment. I can take credit cards over the phone, e-transfers. Most people e-transfer just because it's easier.
And convenient.
Yeah, and convenient.
Interesting. It's an interesting concept to me. Not that your business is a scam, but it's almost a risk buying something over Instagram, I would think. Do you think that holds people back sometimes? Maybe not having a website, the legitimacy of it.
Sometimes, like I have like almost 3,500 followers, so it gives people kind of a idea that I'm a legit business.
Sure.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought that maybe you need to take steps to combat that mentality, getting testimonials or building out other avenues?
I'd say I should probably make in my goal, in probably a year or so, I'd like to make a landing page, like a website with all like my information of my business. I can have the testimonials, what I do, how I do it, and just so people have a better idea of my business.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Now, do you have a trade tip for the audience today? A piece of advice that you'd like to give someone, a piece of advice that people maybe have given you, or just a general tidbit of information that you'd like to share with the world?
Sure. I'd say like try and figure out what you love to do and then try and make a living at it, because that's what I do. And personally, like it makes me more successful because I love what I do. I work hard to grow my business. And I think it's important to love what you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking to that journey, so at 15 years old, you knew that you were going to love to buy antiques? I don't think I knew what I was going to do. Or initially, I wanted to be like a marine biologist. Oh.
But over time, I kind of grew my love for like vintage and antique items more than that.
Right.
And that's kind of where I took my business degree, I got a marketing major, and that's kind of what I wanted to focus on.
And do you think that the idea that you were going to become a marine biologist and your love of turtles, that kind of spiraled into the name as well?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said you went to school for business and marketing. Now, do you find you apply what you learned in school to your business today, or is it still primarily the trial and error stuff?
I'd say most of the stuff I learned, I was already doing it, but it just gave me the definition of what it was that I was doing so I could better understand that. But most of it I found is trial and error, kind of learn what people are looking for. The trends are always changing, so you have to always be looking at what people are buying.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay, now Isaac, where can people find you if they want to purchase items from Green Turtle Salvage?
So you can follow me on my Instagram page or my Facebook page. It's all the same information. Or you can text me, email me, call me, whatever works for you.
Perfect.
And we can schedule an appointment to come shopping at my shop.
That's awesome. Isaac, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
This has been another edition of Modern Business. I'm your host, Taylor Bursey, and we'll be back next time.